January 30th, 1944, southeast of Palau Island, in the Philippine Sea, at 0200 hours.
Lieutenant Commander Slade Cutter is standing in the conning tower of USS Seahorse, 180 feet below the Pacific Ocean, tracking a Japanese convoy he has been chasing for 80 continuous hours. There are 3 freighters and 7 escort destroyers, and Cutter has just fired 3 torpedoes into one ship. The stern is blown apart. The ship lifts straight up. 450 Japanese soldiers scream as they slide down into the dark sea. Destroyer in the convoy turns toward Seahorse's position. 7 warships, each carrying 72 depth charges. That means 504 explosions ready to happen. Cutter has 8 torpedoes left. His batteries are down to 40%. His crew has not slept for 3 days. The destroyers are rushing in at 35 knots. Seahorse's top underwater speed is only 9 knots. The math is clear. He is about to die. 93% of submarines attacked by multiple destroyers using coordinated patterns do not survive. Cutter has no space to move. The coral reefs of Palau are 400 feet below him. The ocean surface is 180 feet above him, and 7 angry warships are closing in from all directions. He is trapped in a 3-dimensional kill zone with walls made of high explosives. Standard doctrine says, go deep, go quiet. Hope the destroyers pass over. Cutter instead turns Seahorse straight toward the lead destroyer and orders flank. Speed. But Lieutenant Commander Slade Devil Cutter is about to do something that will shape Pacific submarine warfare. 'Cause, over the next 48 hours, he will sink 2 more ships from the same convoy while being hunted non-stop. He will survive 127 separate depth charge explosions. He will surface at night, recharge his batteries while Japanese destroyers search for him just 3 miles away, and he will turn the hunters into the hunted. And he can do this because 3 years earlier, no one in the U.S. Navy wanted him in command of anything. Slade Devil Cutter was born on November 1, 1911, in Oswego, Illinois, a farming town where men were judged by how much alfalfa they harvested. His father had been permanently injured while playing football, so his mother pushed young Slade away from contact sports completely. Instead, he learned to play the flute. Not just learned it, but mastered it. By the age of 16, Slade Cutter won a national flute competition judged by John Philip Sousa himself, the man who wrote the Marine Corps March. When Cutter arrived at the U.S. Naval Academy in 1931, flute. But being 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing 215 pounds of strong Illinois, farm muscle does not go unnoticed by football coaches. His name was Paul Brown. Yes, that Paul Brown, the man who would later have the IC exact style main rewrite cartoon. The Cleveland Browns were named after him. Brown saw Cutter walking across campus and said only one sentence, "You're playing football. Start Monday." By 1934, Cutter had become an All-American tackle, playing both offense and defense at a time when players stayed on the field with no substitutions. On December 1, 1934, At Franklin Field in Philadelphia, 79,000 people watched the Army-Navy game played in ankle-deep mud. Navy had not beaten Army in 13 years. The field was a swamp. Kicking a field goal was almost impossible. In the fourth quarter, the score was 0-0. Navy drove the ball to Army's 20-yard line. Head coach Tommy Hamilton called for a field goal attempt. Everyone in the stadium knew it wouldn't work. The mud was too deep. The conditions were terrible. Cutter, who was normally a lineman, stepped back to kick. The holder placed the ball down, and it immediately sank 3 inches into the mud. Cutter kicked it anyway. The ball floated through the air like a dying duck. It had no reason to go straight. It barely cleared the crossbar. The referee signaled good. Navy 3, Army 0. Final score: 9,000 people went wild. Slade Cutter became a national celebrity overnight. Professional boxing promoters offered him contracts. The money would have set him up for life. He refused them all and reported to the battleship USS Idaho to serve his country. Because while Cutter was kicking game-winning field goals, war was on the way. In May 1938, Cutter entered submarine school in Groton, Connecticut. He had never been on a submarine before. Most of his classmates dropped out. The mental pressure of being trapped in a steel tube 300 feet underwater broke them. Cutter graduated at the top of his class, not because he was fearless, but because he understood something they didn't. Football had taught him that pressure is just another opponent. On December 18, 1941, 11 after after Pearl Harbor, Lieutenant Slade Cutter was executive officer of USS Pompano under Commander Lew Parks, one of the most aggressive submarine captains in the Pacific. They were heading toward the Marshall Islands on America's first submarine war patrol. About 200 miles from Pearl Harbor, a U.S. patrol plane spotted them, mistook them for Japanese, and called in dive bombers from USS Enterprise. 3 near-miss bomb explosions damaged Pompano's fuel tanks. Oil streamed behind them for 40 miles, creating a massive arrow pointing to their location for every Japanese destroyer in the Pacific. Parks ordered them to continue anyway. They reached Wake Island, confirmed the Japanese occupation, then pushed deeper into enemy waters toward Watch Atoll. There they found a 16,000-ton Japanese transport. Parks attacked at a range of 1,200 yards, close enough that if the torpedoes exploded early, the submarine would be destroyed. Subscribe to World War II Tales for more true wartime stories. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and leave your comments below. Watch the video till the end. To catch every detail and support the channel, the explosion would kill everyone aboard Pompano. All 4 torpedoes strike the target. The transport rolls onto its side and sinks within 4 minutes. Then a Japanese destroyer appears. Parks orders an down-the-throat attack, the most dangerous move in submarine warfare. You point the bow straight at a charging destroyer and fire torpedoes at point-blank range. If you miss, the destroyer rams you. If the torpedoes malfunction, they circle back and destroy you. The first 2 torpedoes explode early, just 50 feet from Pompey-Nose bow. The blast knocks men off their feet. Parks fires 2 more torpedoes. Both miss. The destroyer drops 36 depth charges. One knocks an engine exhaust valve loose. The engine room floods. Pompano dives uncontrollably toward 400 feet. Cutter, serving as executive officer, directs the damage control effort. They blow ballast, surface, and barely escape. Cutter returns to Pearl Harbor, having learned the most important lesson of his life. Perfectly executed aggressive action is safer than cautious hesitation. In October 1943, Cutter is assigned as executive officer of USS Seahorse, a brand new Balao-class submarine under Commander Don McGregor. On its first patrol, McGregor makes 2 attacks, allows multiple convoys to pass untouched, is depth-charged, ruptures his fuel lines, and limps back to base. Admiral Charles Lockwood, commander of Submarine Force Pacific, reviews the patrol. Report and removes McGregor from command for lack of aggression. On October 20, 1943, Slade Cutter, age 32, takes command of USS Seahorse. His first targets are 3 Japanese trawlers off the coast of Japan. Standard doctrine says to submerge and use torpedoes. The trawlers are not worth torpedoes. Cutter surfaces anyway, uses his 5-inch deck gun, and sinks all 3 in 14 minutes. His crew thinks he is crazy. They are 200 miles from mainland Japan, exposed on the surface and vulnerable to aircraft. Cutter says, "We save torpedoes for bigger targets." November 1, 1944. Night, Seahorse encounters a Japanese convoy of 17 ships, including cargo vessels, troop transports, and oilers, escorted by 6 destroyers. The convoy is zigzagging at 12 knots. Cutter plots an interception course, dives to periscope depth, and does something no one expects. He steers Seahorse directly between 2 destroyer escorts and enters the convoy itself. He is now inside the protective screen, surrounded by enemy warships. Just 400 yards from a 7,000-ton passenger cargo ship, he fires 9 torpedoes in 90 seconds. To strike Yamada Maru, she breaks apart and sinks in 3 minutes. 3 more hit Chihaya Maru, a 7,802 transport carrying 900 Japanese soldiers. The blast ignites her fuel tanks. The ship becomes a burning mass at sea. Destroyers rush in. Cutter dives deep. Over the next 2 hours, 72 depth charges explode around Seahorse. Not one hits. When Cutter surfaces that night, just 200 meters away, the crew asks how he stayed so calm. He replies, "I played football in front of 79,000 people. This is just 7 destroyers." By the time Seahorse returns to Pearl Harbor on December 12, 1943, Cutter has sunk 9 enemy ships totaling 48,000 tons in just 53 days. Admiral Lockwood reads the patrol report and asks if I need you to find Japanese ships in Pearl Harbor. Can you do it? Cutter does not smile. Sir, just point to where you want them dead. January 6, 1944. Seahorse leaves Pearl Harbor for her third war patrol. The destination is the Palau Islands, 550 miles east of the Philippines. Intelligence reports show heavy Japanese convoy activity. Tokyo is desperate to reinforce its garrisons before the American invasion begins. Cutter has 4 objectives: sink supply ships, sink troop transports, sink tankers, sink anything that moves. Seahorse has already destroyed 2 freighters near Truk. Then Ultra Intelligence decodes Japanese radio traffic and hands Cutter a gift, a large convoy leaving Palau and heading north with reinforcements for the Marianas. 2 freighters, heavy escort, high-value targets. Cutter positions Seahorse 30 miles southeast of Palau and waits. January 28, 1944, 14:30 hours. Periscope depth. Cutter spots them. 3 freighters leaving Palau Harbor, surrounded by 5 escort destroyers and 2 submarine chasers. The convoy is moving at 14 knots in a defensive formation built specifically to stop submarine attacks. The freighters sit in the center. The escorts form a moving perimeter 2,000 yards out, zigzagging every 8 minutes. Standard doctrine says wait for nightfall and attack on the surface. Kata does not wait. He tracks them for 32 straight hours, staying submerged, following at maximum speed that drains his batteries, watching for an opening that never appears. His crew is exhausted. His batteries are down to 35%. He is burning power faster than he can recharge it. His chief engineer says, "Skipper, we need to surface and recharge or we're dead." Cutter replies, "We surface when they're dead." Hour 32, January 30th, 0200 hours. The convoy shifts course slightly. 1 escort destroyer moves 200 yards out of position to investigate a radar contact, probably a whale. For 90 seconds, a gap opens. Cutter orders flank speed, closes to 1,400 yards. Targets the largest freighter, Toku Maru, 2,747 tons, carrying 450 Japanese troops, and fires 3 torpedoes. All 3 hit. The first tears Toku Maru's stern completely off. The second detonates in the engine room. The third strikes midship and ignites the fuel bunkers. The ship sinks in 90 seconds, bow first, dragging 450 men into the Pacific. Now the problem. Every destroyer in the convoy hears the torpedoes launch and sees Toku Maru explode. They know exactly where Seahorse is. Cutter orders emergency deep. Seahorse dives to 400 feet, just above the coral reef floor. 7 destroyers close in on his position. They form a circle 3,000 yards wide and begin dropping depth charges in a coordinated pattern meant to push submarines toward the center, where concentrated explosions crush the hull. The first depth charge explodes 200 feet above Seahorse. The shock wave throws everyone into the bulkheads. Light bulbs shatter. The gyrocompass spins out of control. Cutter orders silent running. All non-essential systems are shut down. No one talks. No one moves. Seahorse drifts at 2 knots, barely under control. A second depth charge detonates 150 feet away. Coal groans. Cork insulation falls from the ceiling. A hydraulic line bursts, spraying oil across the control room. Cutter realizes the destroyers are using a new tactic. Instead of dropping charges randomly, they are using sonar, then dropping charges in a tightening pattern. They are forcing Seahorse toward the center. The solution is to do exactly what they do not expect. Cutter orders flank speed toward the nearest destroyer. His crew thinks he has lost his mind. You do not charge a destroyer that is dropping depth charges. But Cutter understands something they do not. Destroyers cannot drop charges directly beneath themselves, or they risk sinking their own ship. The safest place during a depth charge attack is directly under the attacker. Seahorse accelerates to 9 knots, closing on the destroyer at a 45-degree angle. Sonar tracks the destroyer's propeller noise. 800 yards, 600, 400. The destroyer hears Seahorse's cavitation, the sound of propellers tearing through water, and turns to ram. Cutter orders emergency deep, pushing Seahorse to 500 feet, deeper than her rated crush depth, and passes directly beneath the destroyer with just 200 feet of separation. The destroyer drops 6 depth charges. All 6 explode 300 feet above Seahorse. Cutter's gamble works, but now he faces a new problem. He is 500 feet below crush depth. 6 other destroyers are closing in, and his batteries are down to 18%. He cannot surface. He cannot run. He cannot hide. So he stops. Cutter orders all stop. Neutral buoyancy. 0 propeller movement. Seahorse becomes a 2,400-ton steel statue resting on the ocean floor. For 40 minutes, no one moves. The destroyers circle above, listening. Their sonar pings echo through the hull. Each one a reminder they are one mistake away from death. Then, 6 hours into the attack, the destroyers make a mistake. They assume Seahorse is dead and move off to rejoin the convoy. Cutter waits another 20 minutes, then he surfaces. It is 0800 hours, full daylight. Surfacing in daylight just 50 miles from a Japanese airbase, with 7 destroyers still within radar range, is suicide. Cutter does not care. His batteries are down to 11%. If he does not charge now, Seahorse becomes a grave. The diesel engines roar to life. Batteries begin charging. Lookouts scan the sky for aircraft. 45 minutes later, radar picks up the convoy again, still moving north 30 miles away. Cutter's executive officer says, "Skipper, we should break contact. We got one. Let's go home." A Cutter replies, "We're not finished." For the next 48 hours, Cutter continues tracking the same convoy. He surfaces at night, recharges the batteries, dives at dawn, and follows. The destroyers know he is nearby. They keep turning back, searching, and dropping random depth charges. Cutter stays just beyond detection range and waits. February 1st, 1944. 300 hours. The convoy enters the Luzon Strait between Taiwan and the Philippines. The water is shallow here, only 600 feet deep, which gives the destroyers an advantage. But it also means the convoy has less room to maneuver. Cutter closes to 2,000 yards and fires 8 torpedoes at the 2 remaining freighters. All 8 miss. The destroyers charge. Cutter fires his last 2 torpedoes from the stern tubes and dives deep. Both stern torpedoes hit. Tolimaru, 4,400 tons, explodes. Her cargo is gasoline drums, and the blast can be seen for 30 miles. The second freighter, damaged but still floating, limps away. The destroyers drop 55 depth charges over the next 4 hours. Seahorse survives every one of them at hour 80 of the pursuit. 3 days and 8 hours, Cutter finally breaks contact. Batteries are at 9%. Torpedoes are gone. Depth charges survived, 127. Enemy ships sunk from this single convoy. 3. Enemy troops killed, between 100 and 200. Seahorse limps back to Pearl Harbor on February 16, 1944. Admiral Lockwood meets Cutter on the dock and asks, "How the hell are you still alive?" Cutter shrugs. They kept missing. Lockwood awards him his Second Navy Cross. The citation reads, "For extraordinary heroism and distinguished service in action as commanding officer of USS Seahorse during her third war patrol." Lieutenant, Commander Cutter pursued an enemy convoy for 80 hours, launching repeated torpedo attacks to sink 5 enemy ships totaling more than 30,000 tons. His courage and determination were in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Cutter reads it once and files it away. He still has 2 more patrols to complete. When Seahorse returns to Pearl Harbor, submariners from other boats line the pier to see the crew. Word spreads quickly. Cutter tracked a convoy for 80 hours, survived 127 depth charges, and sank 3 heavily escorted ships. The chief of the boat from USS Trigger boards Seahorse and asks Cutter's torpedo officer, "What's it like serving?" Under him, the torpedo officer replies, "He treats depth charges like football penalties, just noise." Admiral Lockwood calls Cutter to his office and asks him to brief other submarine commanders on his tactics. Cutter's presentation lasts 6 minutes. His advice is simple: get close, shoot straight, and don't run until you have to. One commander asks, "What if you're surrounded by destroyers?" Cutter answers, "Then you're close enough." Within 2 weeks, 3 other submarine commanders try similar long convoy chases. To succeed, one USS Scorpion is sunk with all hands. The lesson is clear. Cutter's tactics worked for Cutter, but they required a special kind of nerve that could not be taught. April 8, 1944. Seahorse begins her 4th war patrol in the waters off Guam. Cutter encounters a Japanese convoy of 15 ships heading toward Saipan to reinforce the garrison before the American invasion. The convoy is guarded by 9 destroyers, the largest escort screen cutter has ever faced. Standard doctrine says to report the position and let multiple submarines coordinate an attack. Cutter attacks immediately. He fires 2 torpedoes at the converted submarine tender Aratama Maru, a 6,584-ton ship loaded with ammunition. Both torpedoes hit. The explosion is so powerful that the blast wave tears holes in 2 nearby freighters. Aratama Maru drifts onto Guam's coral reefs and is declared a total loss. All 9 destroyers rush in. The cutter dives deep but stays in the area. 12 hours later, after the destroyers believe he has escaped, Cutter surfaces at night, reloads his torpedo tubes, and attacks the same convoy again. He sinks Mimasaka Maru, 4,667 tons. Then, on April 20th, while serving as a lifeguard submarine for U.S. carrier airstrikes on Saipan, Cutter spots the Japanese submarine I-174 on the surface at a range of 800 yards. He fires 2 torpedoes. Both hit 1 to 174 sinks in 40 seconds, becoming one of only 7 Japanese submarines sunk by American submarines during the entire war. On April 27th, Seahorse finds another convoy 45 miles west of Saipan. Cutter sinks Akiawa Maru, 5,244 tons, with 3 torpedoes. The total for the 4th patrol is 5 ships sunk, totaling 18,459 tons. Admiral Lockwood awards Cutter his 3rd Navy Cross. The citation states that Commander Cutter's aggressive leadership and tactical brilliance were key in stopping Japanese reinforcements to the Marianas and directly helped the success of U.S. amphibious operations. Cutter responds simply, "We just did our job." But the reality is more complicated. Cutter is not just sinking ships. He is stopping those ships from delivering troops, ammunition, and fuel to Japanese forces fighting American Marines. Transport he sinks means 500 fewer enemy soldiers on Saipan's beaches. Every tanker destroyed means Japanese aircraft fly fewer missions. By June 1944, when U.S. forces invade Saipan, Japanese commanders report critical shortages of fuel and ammunition, shortages directly caused by submarines like Seahorse. June 15, 1944. Cutter is patrolling the Philippine Sea when he spots smoke on the horizon. He moves closer to investigate and identifies the largest Japanese naval force he has ever seen: 6 aircraft carriers, 4 battleships, 5 heavy cruisers, and dozens of destroyers. It is Admiral Gisaburo Ozawa's main battle fleet, heading out to stop the American invasion of Saipan. Cutter cannot attack. There are too many escorts, but he sends a contact report to Admiral Raymond Spruance, commander of the U.S. Fifth Fleet. Spruance redirects his carrier forces to intercept. The result is the Battle of the Philippine Sea, later called the Marianas Turkey Shoot, where U.S. naval aviators shoot down 330 Japanese aircraft and sink 3 carriers. Ozawa's fleet retreats and never again poses a serious threat. Cutter's role in the battle becomes a footnote in history, but without his contact report, Spruance would not have known Ozawa's position. July 19, 1944. Seahorse completes her 5th patrol. In 4 patrols under Cutter's command, Seahorse sinks 19 Japanese ships totaling more than 100,000 tons, the second highest total of any submarine commander in the Pacific. Behind only Richard O'Kane and tied with Dudley Mush Morton, Cutter receives his 4th Navy Cross, 1 for each patrol. Only 5 American submariners earn 4 Navy Crosses during World War II, and Cutter is one of them. He is reassigned to Portsmouth Naval Shipyard to take command of USS Requin, a brand new submarine. His wife, Fran, sponsors the ship at its commissioning on April 28, 1945. Requin arrives at Pearl Harbor on July 30, 1945. Ready for her first combat patrol. 14 days later, Japan surrenders. Slade Cutter never fires another torpedo in anger. After the war, Cutter commands the heavy cruiser USS Northampton, flagship of the U.S. Second Fleet. He later serves as athletic director of the Naval Academy. From 1958 to 1962, where he is better known for his football career than his submarine service. He retires in 1965 with the rank of captain. He is never promoted to admiral, likely because he refuses to play politics. He moves to Annapolis, Maryland, and lives quietly. On June 9, 2005, Slade DeVille Cutter dies of heart failure at the age of 93 at the Ginger Cove Retirement Community in Annapolis. He suffered from Parkinson's disease. He is buried at the United States Naval Academy Cemetery in Annapolis, Maryland. His headstone lists his rank, his service dates, and 4 words: 4 Navy Crosses. There is no mention of the 19 ships, no mention of the 80-hour chase, no mention of the 127 depth charges. Some things do not fit on headstones.
Asterisk, there are 2 ways to tell this story. The first is the legend. Slade Cutter, the superhuman submarine commander who charged fearlessly into impossible situations and emerged victorious through sheer courage and tactical brilliance. The man who turned the hunters into the hunted, the athlete who brought football aggression into submarine warfare. The second version is the documented record. Cutter was a careful tactician who calculated risk with mathematical precision, trained his crew relentlessly, and understood that aggressive action, when done correctly, was statistically safer than passive defense. He was not fearless. He was disciplined. Both versions are true. Both are remarkable. What matters most is this: Slade Cutter understood that the most dangerous moment in any battle is not when the enemy charges you, but when you hesitate to charge them. Every time Cutter faced a heavily escorted convoy, he had 2 choices. He could wait for a better opportunity, or he could create one. Waiting meant the convoy might escape. Waiting meant Japanese troops would reach their destination. Waiting was reasonable, defensible, and safe. Cutter never waited. He charged into defensive formations. He surfaced in daylight to recharge batteries. He tracked convoys for 80 hours when other commanders would have broken contact. He turned toward destroyers instead of away from them. He did all of this not because he was reckless, but because he had done the math. Aggressive action, executed with precision, carried a higher chance of survival than cautious hesitation. Submarine commanders who hesitated survived individual encounters but were later ambushed and destroyed. Aggressive commanders died more often in the battles they chose, but they chose those battles. Cutter chose every fight, and he won every one. This story is not really about submarines, torpedoes, or depth charges. It is about a man who understood that the safest place in a fight is often the center of it, where you control the action and force the enemy to react to you. Football taught him that lesson in 1934, when he kicked a field goal through ankle-deep mud in front of 79,000 people who believed it was impossible. Submarine warfare simply gave him larger fields and higher stakes. Some people spend their lives waiting for the right opportunity. Slade Cutter spent his life creating them. And when 7 destroyers hunted him, he turned around and sank their convoy anyway. Because that is what you do when you are a Slade Cutter. You play to win.